Hello, welcome to Razan's Corner. Today I would like to talk about anxiety surrounding the coronavirus. So I had an actual request for this. I was reached out to by a person that is really struggling with her anxiety process when it comes to the overthinking and the magnifying and going out and dealing with people and just exposure. So what do we do with our anxiety? Well, I guess we need to spend some time on this. So I don't want to rush through the information. I may do part of it today and actually do a small series about it because there are many tools that I would like to put out there. Some may work for you and some may not, so that way you'd have options. The first thing I want to talk about is, what is anxiety? Okay, anxiety is very different than I'm worried about one thing, or I'm coming up against, a deadline of some sort, and I'm anxious about that, but I'm not usually an over worrier. So there are different types of anxiety. We have generalized, which is we worry about everything, and we have specific, which is based on specific incidents or settings. Anxiety is a huge spectrum. So, we can go from a little bit of fear to phobia. So, I'm going to talk about generalized as well as specific because a lot of our anxiety that's heightened that we're seeing today is specifically associated with what's happening in our world and our situational issues. So, anxiety is a unhealthy thought process, usually irrational, usually not based on a whole lot of facts. Flight, fight or flight sets in and we react before we actually challenge our thoughts. So, what are the thoughts that I want you to challenge? Some of the stuff that we're seeing, and most of us do these, they're called cognitive distortions. What are cognitive distortions? Okay, Freud actually introduced these to us as how we processed our world and how we dealt with coping, as well as partial defense mechanisms, as well as just helping ourselves get through a situation the best way that we can, but it's not usually the healthiest way. What are some of those distortions? Okay, let's see if any of those sound familiar to you. Assuming the worst, jumping to conclusions, magnifying a situation, mislabeling a situation, black and white thinking, all or nothing thinking, mind reading. A little bit of defensiveness goes in there as well, which is part of the mislabeling and taking something and actually calling it something else to get away from full ownership because it creates too much anxiety. So when our thoughts are doing this, we now have an emotion that follows. And that emotion is usually based on an irrational thought. So if I'm assuming the worst, my emotion is going to follow that. Now I'm anxious, I'm overthinking, I'm worrying, I'm catastrophically thinking. That's another one. And then what is my behavior doing after that? Well, I may withdraw, I may hibernate, I may avoid, I may become irritable, I may make excuses for not wanting to do something, all because of the avoidance of the anxiety. Okay, so we went from the thought to the action like this, 2.2 seconds. Cognitive behavior therapy helps you slow this down. The first thing we ask is that you challenge your cognitive distortions, CDs, if you will, irrational thinking. So, let's talk about COVID. A lot of us are assuming the worst. We're terrified, so we're magnifying the situation. Some are minimizing it, but for the most of us, we're magnifying the situation. It's all or nothing. If I go out, I'm going to get sick, so I just might as well stay in. If I go out, I'll be exposed, so I might as well stay in. Not only assuming, but jumping to the conclusions that that's going to happen. Now, with all of these cognitive distortions that are happening, our anxiety levels are going to increase. Do we have the right to have some worry around this? Absolutely. But should it be debilitating? No. Because we still have to live. A lot of us have to work. A lot of us have to still function in the world. So now, how do I get my anxiety under control so I have the ability to do that? Okay, so let's say I'm assuming the worst. Now, let me challenge that. What's the worst thing that could happen? I catch it. Okay, how many people are surviving this? Many. Are my chances of not surviving there? Yes, they are. We're not going to minimize that. We're not going to mislabel the threat. But how can I help myself in that situation so it's not the worst? I'll wear a mask. I'll stay distant from people. I'll only go out if I have to. I'll disinfect. I'll take care of whatever it is that I need to do to keep myself as safe as possible. That's in my control. Another way I need you to handle your anxiety in the middle of this, speaking of control, is I want you to get a piece of paper, and I honestly want you to do this for those of you that feel all the fear. In the middle of the circle, I want you to put down, in my control. On the outside of your circle, I want you to put outside my control. Now, when it comes to COVID, please list everything that's in your control, and then list everything that's out of your control. What's in your control? How to protect yourself, how to stay safe, how to disinfect, where to go, where not to go, who to be around, and so on. Another thing you can control: what you watch, what you listen to, what you expose yourself to, who you talk to, what you're doing on social media as exposure, because all that feeds your anxiety. That's what you're in control of. What can you not control? You cannot control what the media is showing you. You cannot control what people are posting. You cannot control what the news is saying or portraying, and which channel is saying what, right? So another thing I want you to do is I want you to plan an information diet. An information diet is: what will I expose myself to and what will I not expose myself to? What that means is I need you to check the updates once a day. If you're one of those people that are constantly looking at the numbers or constantly looking at new information, check it once a day, maybe the end of the day. That's it. That's all you need to do. If you're checking it 5 or 6 times a day, you are magnifying your anxiety every time you do that, re-traumatizing yourself, going back to your fear. So information diet is important. That's in your control. That will be one tool that I want you to use to help your anxiety with COVID. Another tool I want you to use is make your circle diagram. Put that up somewhere. Make 1 or 2 or 3 of those. Put one in your car. Constant visual reminders. You're not in control of some things. Therefore, release that. That's part of our anxiety. We want to control our environment so we are not negatively impacted. And when we can't, it really stresses people out. But the distorted thought that we have in there is that all or nothing. I can either control it or it's a disaster. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. Admit what you can control and what you can't, and let that go. I also want you to understand, what are your distortions. Cognitive distortions are very common. Children have them, animals have them, adults have them. Let's look at one that you do the most. I actually will go to my website and I will post what the main cognitive distortions that people experience are. And with that information, I want you to pick one that you do the most. So if you're jumping to conclusions a lot, or which is worst case scenario, what's the worst thing that could happen, and that's what you're thinking of, that's what I want you to challenge. That's what I want you to ask yourself. Okay, well, finish my sentence. Okay, so if the worst thing could happen is I can catch it, what will I do if that happens? Finish your sentence. Then I will do all the precautions that I need to take. I take care of all the things that I have, isolate myself, whatever it is. I mean, there's a resolution to that. You don't have to stay in the most anxious part of your sentence. So there are some tools right there. that I would like you to see which one works for you. Don't overwhelm yourself. We're talking about anxiety, so don't put too much on your plate. If you feel that maybe you can take care of one of these exercises and actually have it be helpful, let's try one. If that one doesn't work, let's try another. I will continue to post things because anxiety is very prevalent as a whole. And now we're seeing a huge increase, specifically in children and in teenagers, because they have zero control, right? They can't really comprehend what's going on. They're just looking at the aftermath of everything. So I hope this helped. Please share it. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Please subscribe to my channel. I really just want to put these tools out there to see who may be able to use them and who it could help. RezansTherapeuticServices.com is my website. On Instagram, I am at Rezan's Corner. And if you know, I will hopefully continue to put information out there for anything and any topic for anyone who needs it. Like this, for example, somebody wrote in, and please, can you talk about anxiety when it comes to COVID? And here it is. And we'll keep putting information out. That's my goal. I just want to help whoever needs it out there. All right, be the change you want to see in the world. That's a Gandhi quote that I absolutely love. Have a positive day and take care.